welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive Girls Handbook. Today I'm taking you through some of the theming at the Legoland Hotel.
So I should say that the context of my visit to the Legoland Hotel was part of an IAPA tour that it took while in Orlando. They call this an edgy tour, so it's focused on trying to get a first-person perspective on how a particular space works, in this case the Legoland Hotel, which is a highly themed hotel in Orlando, Florida. And so the tour consisted of us looking at the lobby, and I'll show you a series of 3 rooms, some of the guest backstage areas, the area in the back, including the pool and what used to be Cypress Gardens, which is a nice wooded area near the water. And then also I'll show you at the end a buffet dinner and presentation by employees from the hotel, which was quite amazing. So the first thing you see here is walking into the lobby. You can see that, like many other themed hotels that are part of a theme park complex, in particular I'm thinking of Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, which I also took a tour of, one of these edgy tours during my time in Orlando for the IAPA conference. So you can see here again what they've done here is quite remarkable in terms of the level of theming. When we're talking about theming here at Legoland, you will see themes that include a princess, Indiana Jones, explorer, archaeologist, pirates, but you're also then thinking about extensively the brand. And of course, Lego is a very famous building block for kids, and it's become certainly a brand. And I thought what was so amazing about the hotel here is the extent to which they've established a connection with the guests. This area here is for children and families, a play area where kids can build things, and they indicated to us that some of the prize creations actually get displayed on one of the walls in the lobby. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's a interesting emphasis you'll note later in one of the master builder workshop areas on aesthetics and kids creating their own creations out of Legos. So that was certainly appreciated by me when I was thinking about how they were trying to really connect with the guest through the brand, but extending that connection with the guest beyond maybe the typical associations that we have with the particular brand. So I'm showing you some additional areas here in the lobby. So basically you have a play area, second area there, a castle, kind of the more life-size version of Legos. There's a buffet to the left, which I'll take you through later, which is also well themed. Again, we're kind of repeating. Now this is one of the restaurants, and you can see there you can't actually play with those Legos, but they're using those in a very iconic sense, right, as part of the decor, in this case as part of the table area for the guests. So there was a lot of innovative use of the Lego brand throughout the hotel, as I'll be showing you. Most spaces are really accounted for if you think about this, if you're having a chance to look around and look at some of my video. And by the way, a lot of this is unedited. I'm just taking it straight through. I had the GoPro running extensively and took quite a bit of video, so I'm not doing a ton of editing, but I am doing some voiceover here on top, giving you some of my reflections. Again, we're kind of repeating here and looping here through a number of our iterations as we were going through the rooms, and I'll show you the rooms in a little bit here, but I wanted to show you more of the lobby area because I thought it was one of the best examples, I think, of theming. And it's a relatively small hotel. In fact, during our time at the end, when we had a chance to talk to some of the employees at our well-catered dinner, they one of the questions was, your relatively small hotel, and I think it was around 100 plus rooms. Check out this here. Okay, so I wanted to share that with you. As you heard there with the sound, even the bathroom then has theming to it. So that was, I thought, a pretty cool feature as far as extending this to some unexpected areas. We're coming upon here the master model areas. And so they have a master Lego model maker. And basically what happens is guests are invited into this particular area, and they'll have the master model maker creating something, and then the guests, the family and kids typically, which tends to be their demographic, families with smaller children, younger children, they would sit each at these tables and then do their own creation. So again, I really thought that was pretty unique as far as this approach. Here's some additional still shots that I took while I was there. We waited a little bit because there was close to 100 people, I believe, on this tour, so we had to wait for some of the areas to clear until we had a chance to experience. But what you're going to see here then is a tour we had, or a visit with one of the master model makers, and basically he took us through all the processes of what they do for the guests in that particular set of rooms I just showed you. We're just about to enter here. And then he also spoke at length. This is actually the shop where they store many of the Legos for the creations out in the park. And it's, you know, like hundreds of thousands of individual Legos. So it's pretty incredible. You see all the containers there. And each one of those had the different size Legos. So that was pretty amazing to be able to see that. I had no idea that this, you know, something like that went on. So now we're coming up on the buffet area. And again, this was very, very well themed. I was so impressed seeing the extent to which they focused on the theming here at the Legoland Hotel. I'm taking some still photos here as I'm doing. I'm always constantly finding myself juggling the GoPro and also trying to take some still shots as well. So here's the actual buffet, and I'll show you some still images I took as well to give you a little more clarity. Definition of some of the theming. During a particular visit, the park was closed, the adjacent Legoland park, so it wasn't, actually it was great for us, great timing, because it wasn't that crowded. We could walk through the buffet without any problem, without crowds being there. But as I'll show you here with some of the still images, this also had some extensive theming to it. There are Lego placards, signs, you'll see an image of that in a second, that were used to, you know, indicate whatever food item was there. And you know, again, to me, the successfulness of theming when you can really get immersed, in this case within the brand and some of the storylines associated, as you'll see in the rooms, with the Legoland characters, I think that has to happen, or can only happen, I believe, if you pay very, very close attention to all levels of the guests' spaces. These are all front stage spaces, to use Goffman's terms. You can see the plates there, the color patterns, the use of color throughout the Legoland Hotel. I want to say here in the buffet with those plates, you're going to see it again with some back views I'll show you of the pool area, and also some of the color out there. So I think it was really amazing to see how they used the Lego colors to great effect, even including some of the lighting here. Really nice approach to design throughout the hotel. Again, smaller hotel, so they've done a lot, I would say, in the relatively small space of this hotel, as compared to if you watch my other video on Disney's Animal Kingdom, which is a much larger hotel, and presumably I would have to imagine much greater capital investment in terms of Disney's ability to pump a lot of money into both their parks and their hotels. And I think another comment that could be made here in reference to both the Disney Animal Kingdom and now the Legoland is that there's a symbiosis here that we note between a theme park and its hotel. And so what you can do is you can establish stories, experiences for the guests, performances, in the case of, say, Disney's Animal Kingdom. In the case here, at the smaller Legoland Hotel and the adjacent Legoland Park, you can also then create a brand symbiosis, experiential symbiosis. A lot was going on that we learned about in the buffet dinner that followed our tour in terms of thinking about the guest, thinking about their needs. And of course this happens at every theme park and every hotel, but I found that they were really in tune with focusing on their demographic. They're not going after everybody again. They're deliberately targeting families with smaller children. Now here is the pool area. Again, check out some of the color that you can experience here in the video that I've shot. And it was a nice evening. It was not too humid. It was just about turning to dusk as we end our tour. It's going to be getting darker. Again, not a lot of guests out because it wasn't a day in which the park was open. You get some nice views of the back of the hotel there. And you can see again that what they've done is they've extended this use of color and the Legoland colors, those branded colors, to the pool area, the cabanas, the stands there for people's drinks and so forth. You're also going to see in a shot coming up pull bricks, and those pull bricks, which float, of course, are larger versions of Lego blocks. And one of the cool things for me, in addition to the use of color here, was the use of different senses of scale. So you get here's a shot actually from the room. You can see a nice perspective there. This was in the room tour that we took. I snapped that shot or two. And here's some of the sculptures outside. Again, a lot of emphasis, I think, on a very varied experience for the guests. Here are those pool blocks that you can see. And that reminds me, so I was saying just a second ago, is that they're using scale here, I think, in a very interesting way. So think back to the lobby of the hotel, and they have the actual size Lego bricks where parents and their kids can put things together. Then you get that bigger version of the castle in the lobby area. Here's another shot of the back of the hotel. And then with the pull bricks, we get yet another size. So a really nice, I think, innovative approach to scale. Now, this is pretty interesting. So we learned that this was the old Cypress Gardens Park, and I had actually no idea. Our tour guide, who is very knowledgeable, expressed that to us, and I found that interesting. What you're going to see then, in addition to all the lush vegetation, is a series of Lego sculptures. So they've been extended then to this area behind the hotel, behind the pool, and I think it's a nice touch for the guests. You'll see some still images of these. In terms of the outdoor areas, you'll see some birds. There's also a fisherman, and then there's a sign at the end that's also made out of Legos or appearing to be Lego-like in terms of its look, in terms of its aesthetic. I thought this was a nice area. This was a nice secluded area, and it's a space presumably where guests can enjoy. They can get away from their kids, and there's one of the signs there you can see on the left. I'm just thinking of maybe parents wanting to get away from their kids for a bit, or to take them outside, away from the lobby and the atmosphere there, and enjoy a little bit of nature. Because certainly when you're in Orlando, people don't remember this as much because you think of the theme parks and all the hotels and all the gift shops and Kissimmee along 192 and so forth. But you don't think of all the incredible nature that is available throughout the Orlando area. Certainly going into Celebration as well, you get that sense. And I think that's one really remarkable thing about Orlando in terms of its natural environment. And I think what was curious to me also was the sense of interplay between the natural world and some of the Lego sculptures. Maybe my only sense would be that there could have been a few more sculptures, but it seemed like they were trying to be sparse deliberately, perhaps not trying to overwhelm the guests with too much of the Lego brand, but giving him or her just enough perhaps to satisfy him or her in their time outside here enjoying nature and also some of the Lego brand. So as you can see, the sun's just about to go down. Again, I have to say that the tour itself was quite remarkable. Just being able to see and hear about the operations, about the design, about the demographics, and I don't have video of it. I'll show you a few still images at the end, but it was really remarkable to hear from this team, and as I'll talk about later, it included the master model builder, someone from hotel operations, another person who worked in the marketing department, and a really the passionate head chef of the Legoland Hotel. And it was great to hear from them because they told us a lot about the theming and immersion, but from their perspective, working with guests, working with others, talking in particular about their passions and how they see it as a mission to really focus on the guests and to also focus on some aspects of the Lego brand as they appear, as they're displayed in the various ways as we're looking at today here in the mini spaces of the hotel, both on the inside and the outside. So you're seeing some of the sculptures here, which I thought were nice touches, kind of hidden. The deer here made of Legos. See a few more examples of this. Okay, bird as well. Okay, so now check out the elevators.
Oh, that's awesome. That's crazy. That's crazy. Everybody do that. That's what she said you gotta dance. That's too funny.
I suppose they have to wait now.
There we go.
Well, so as we're leaving the elevator, again, I think that that's a nice touch. It reminded me a little bit of what you got in the bathroom. The only downside probably would be if you're a parent and you have to listen to the disco soundtrack, 20 times on your way up and down. But it's innovative because it's taking the elevator into a more performative dimension. If you think of elevators, typically they don't have that level of performance to them as far as extending some of the narrative here, the fun, the entertainment, maybe not the Lego brand itself, but creating fun and entertainment for parents and their children. Okay, so we're going to look at a series of 3 rooms. This is the first, and this you can tell it's pretty obvious, the Buccaneer, the pirate theme here. And what we're doing is we're kind of milling around waiting for the last group to leave the room as I'm adjusting my camera here and constantly just, I feel like, on these, not just on these tours, but anytime I'm visiting a theme park, or in this case a themed hotel, I'm always juggling the cameras, trying to get the still images, trying to get the GoPro, and it's not always easy. And then always trying to think also about what exactly I want to capture, what kind of footage. And typically, as you're discovering here, I have to do voiceover after the fact because it would be too disruptive to do this during, in this case, the tour with all these other theme park and industry professionals. So you can see some really cool theming here. It's just over the top. I mean, the bathrooms, as you can see, not everything, again, is going to directly, I think, tie in with the Lego brand. You have to riff off this. You certainly have sub-themes where you think about the Lego sets and some of the Lego movies, and the Lego movies and video games have been really, I think, innovative in taking a new direction to, a very revered storyline or other brand out there, whether it's Star Wars or Indiana Jones, and then giving it a new look because, of course, the movies and the video games have that Lego aesthetic to them. So in a sense, you could say that is carried through a lot of the theming here, where you can use those sub-themes that are still part of the overall branded theme of the Lego brand and the Lego products, but then you can establish it in a more, let's say, innovative or expressive sense, right? And so you could think about how maybe, and it's a little bit gendered, as I'll talk about later with the girls' room, but with the boys' room here, maybe the pirate, right? It has this sense of adventure, and so that's part of the excitement of experiencing the brand. I actually saw that shot earlier, so I was showing us a still image of the pool area, and I think we're going to walk on the deck as well. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the fact that we could actually check out the rooms. Some of these were massive, as you can see. This is one of the bigger ones. That's certainly one of the more expensive rooms that we're walking through here. The next two, I believe, are going down in size, and I think all were still fairly spacious, but this was the biggest of the lot that we saw during the visit. So. Okay, and again, we're nearing the end of the tour of this particular room. You can see, too, in the hallways, they've extended the theming. I would almost say it's a hyper approach, and this is why in this video I'm talking about the sense of effective immersion through the brand, because they really have touched on every nook and cranny of the hotel, every space, indoor and outdoor, in terms of establishing the theming. And so in a sense, it's a maximalist approach to brand theming as opposed to a minimalist one. And I'm thinking of totally different spaces, but I'm thinking of Red Bull World in Salzburg, and I'm also thinking a little bit of the Red Bull, actually both in Salzburg, the Hangar 7 and then the Red Bull Experience store. And those are branded experiences, again, totally different brand, but a much more minimalist approach to the branding. Now this is kind of interesting too. You see that even in the corridors here. You can see through the carpeting, the color design. They've extended the brand theming even to these, typically we would say, right, this is almost a backstage area or a connecting area that is very functional, right, just like the bathroom. But I think it was cool that they thought about extending the color theming throughout the hotel. Okay, now you're going to see very gendered here, right? We're going to see the more princess-inspired rooms. You're going to get a different sense of the approach to theming here. Again, I think you'll see is quite gendered in terms of how they've thought about it. So we'll go into one of the girls' rooms here. And so, as we look at some of this, and this is probably where some of my work in gender studies is going to come in a little bit. I'm not saying you can't have pink for girls and blue for boys and so forth, or more earth tones and pirates for boys, and here, somewhat opposite for girls. But one of the things I found curious, and I asked a question about this, is, the emphasis on appearance. And you'll see in a lot of the areas, I believe in the bathroom there, you saw, hair dryer and comb. You'll see another area as well. And, the question I posed was, I said, well, what if a family had a girl who was more tomboyish and didn't want to, have this kind of more prissy, frilly version of femininity and so forth. And the guide said, well, the parents then could choose to maybe have them visit or stay. Here's the actual mirror. There was what I was getting at, and I found this interesting. And I was snapping some photos because my gender, there you see on the wall, right, the brush and the comb and so forth. And again, a lot of mirrors. You see that portrayed there again, a girl, hair dryer, and a brush. But anyway, the answer to my question was that, the family could take that girl into the pirate room, which I'm sure could be fine, right? You could certainly say you don't have to follow the gender theme. And I guess I would wonder, like, what would happen is if, you had a family with a boy and a girl, and how would you decide on, are they too gendered such that maybe it wouldn't be a good experience in the hypothetical case of a boy and a girl if one or the other if one or the other had to experience the what might be seen as too overly gendered in terms of their experience of the particular room. So something to think about. Again, the critiques here for me were minimal because everything was so done in a marvelous way. But the gender critique is interesting. Now, you saw that device on the right, and that was actually kind of interesting. You press this button, and just this purple or pink swirly stuff went around. And we asked, what does it do? And our guide said it does absolutely nothing. So I thought that was kind of interesting that, again, when we think about gender and metaphors and so forth in a girl's room, what was the point of having something that really didn't do anything? So I thought that was a curious thing. Now, on a much happier note, you're going to see in the next room, actually, there are these cool, I think every room has these cool treasure chests that I thought were a very innovative approach to interactivity with the guests, particularly with children. Okay, so now we're entering into the Indiana Jones explorer archaeologist floor, and you're getting a different sense, a different type of room here. Again, we're waiting around trying to get our turn into the room, and you can see again the hall area is very extensively themed, as you'll see in really all the floors of the hotel. Okay, so let's take a look here as we get ready to enter. I would say it was a bit of a challenge just going on these tours because you're sometimes feeling very much crowded. But it was, what was cool about this tour compared to the Disney one. The Disney one, we never got into a guest room, and I found that to be it was disappointing because in this case we really, I think, had the opportunity to see what the guest sees and to see the theming happening at the room level. And I can't even tell you, in the case of Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, the extent to which the rooms were themed, because we only saw the public area. We didn't, as in this case, get a chance to see the guest rooms. We're still kind of milling around, as you can see. snapping photos here because there's a lot going on. Again, the very maximalist approach to theming and brand Lego theming, as I mentioned earlier. Finally entering a room. And I think as you see, in this case, a smaller room, so they do the bunk beds, but they still extend the theming. I thought it was pretty cool here. So you get like kind of the Egyptian tomb area, and here is the treasure chest there. That is really cool. So basically the idea is that there are these clues and every room has this. There are clues written on them. And then the idea is that, as I'm looking at it, based on answering some questions, you come up with a combination. And then I guess I'm going to take a photo here, as you can see, of the card. And then based on that combination, you could then open up the treasure chest. And we were actually going to try it, and someone said, oh, they weren't good at math or whatever. They weren't good at solving puzzles, so we never actually got to see what was inside. But I thought that was pretty cool. Anytime you can create a sense of discovery for the guests, and I think particularly for smaller kids, it's going to be a more memorable experience for them. So this was, I think, very innovative and a unique touch that probably isn't very expensive, but has a very good effect, payout in terms of the guests and their satisfaction. And again, the whole time going through, I thought probably for families, you have the Indiana Jones fedora hat there. Probably for families, this is a great place to stay because you're extending the experience with the Lego brand, and you're not in your mind thinking of the Lego brand, but you're thinking of everything that maybe is connoted with Lego, whatever those connotations are. And when the park closes, you can still experience that in the hotel. And that probably was what made Disney's, less Disneyland, but the Magic Kingdom, Walt Disney World in Orlando, so immersive as a total experience, was that you could choose any number of themed hotels then that allowed you to extend your experiences, the narratives that you had with the space to the space of the hotel. Now, that was the conclusion of the room tour, and as I mentioned, we had a chance to have really nice buffet dinner in this conference room, and these are some of the images that were displayed there. Relatively small conference room, but great experience. Spent over an hour with a number of the staff from the hotel, and we had the opportunity to ask them questions. We asked them certainly about their demographic. We asked them about operations. We asked some questions about the theming, and what my question in particular was, what do you expect out of guests? I mean, do you think that a guest has already experienced a bit of the Lego brand in other places, and so forth, and then how do you build on that? So for me, it was an interesting question to ask at this really wonderful opportunity here, part of IAPA's Edu Tour at Legoland Hotel in Orlando, Florida.
So I hope you enjoyed the video feature today here at the Legoland Hotel in Orlando, Florida, and please come back for additional video features of the Immersive Handbook.